Hi, everyone. I'm going to give you a short heads up on Greece here. Add a few things for you. I like this manicure. It gives you some of the types of pictures they have on Greek vessels. One of the oldest things they do is they create pots. And I love this one. This is Achilles and Ajax playing droughts. And it's really cool. There's a short little video I want to show you. I'm going to add that to your list of things to do is to watch that video. You'll like it. And Ajax and Achilles were in the Trojan War, and as well as was Odysseus. And Ajax and Odysseus are friends. And you'll read it. It tells a little bit of the story and tells you what's going on. It's really interesting. Here's another one to show you that this was a very popular story and that they painted it in a number of different ways. So this is Greece, ancient Greece. Greece is still very mountainous. You can see all the mountains. And here's Athens, here's Thebes, here's Delphi. You can call it Delphi or Delphi. Just listen to people, they pronounce it differently. Here's Mount Olympus, where the gods are supposed to live. Here's Allium, which is Troy, actually. Here is Ithaca, where Odysseus was from, Olympia, and Sparta. So they are great seafarers, easy to travel by boat than over mountains. And they called themselves the Hellenes. That's the name from Helen, a male, not from the Iliad. The Greek religion created their world. Their world was created through the battle of the Titans, the earth gods, and the sky gods, which are the Olympians, because they were believed to live on Mount Olympus. They viewed the gods as immortal, but in human form with human emotions and weaknesses. They built sanctuaries, which were places believed to be important or sacred to the gods. They fit these structures in the surrounding natural landscape. You can see one here. Delphi is Apollo's sanctuary built in 530 before the Common Era on a site of an earlier temple. From this spot, Apollo was thought to give cryptic prophecies to humans through intermediaries or mediums. And he did it through goddesses and things like that. So here's a picture of the sanctuary. And this was the temple. And there are all these other buildings that you'll see that are ancient ones. And then the amphitheater. I tend to always forget that name. And you can see the modern road back here, which is really cool. You can see it better here, the modern road and all the mountains and the ruins of the place. And here's a good overview. You can see the temple from here. You can see the modern road. You can see some of the buildings. I have a better one too. That right there would be the modern building where you could buy your souvenirs and they do business and things like that there. This would have been a temple. This is a drawing of what a temple would have looked like. This is the temple of Artemis at Ephesus. And you can see they have sculpture up here, full-size sculpture on this pediment, this pedimental sculpture. You can see it was painted. It's not all white like you think. These horses and chariots are human size. It's very, very big. These little things right here would have set fire in them. It would have had for lighting at night. They were just gigantic. The Greeks were the first direct democracy in the world history. What was important to their democracy is that the legal equality of its participants. Everyone's vote is equal to everyone else's. Men who had the right to vote also had the obligation to uphold that right. These are kind of some of the things they would vote by, but it was just Athens. It wasn't all the other city-states, just Athens. They encouraged members of the lower class to serve public office. They taught their citizens of all classes the ways of government. The citizens are only males over age 18, only free men, and this equaled 21,000 free citizens, 10,000 foreign residents, and 400,000, including women, children, and slaves. So only the citizens, only 21,000 could vote. Athenian citizenship. Athens was broke into communities that each had an assembly and a magistrate. All citizens participated in the assembly and all had an equal right to own private property, to exercise freedom of speech, to vote and hold public office, and to serve in the army or navy. Well, sort of. Early Greek art, there, see, this shows them voting, which is kind of cool. Early Greek art funerary. This is very interesting. A number of ways. Some of the earliest art, it's called the geometric style. They have a lot of different styles. We can't go into all of that, but just so you know, this is very early, and this is a funeral. Okay. And the funeral, the burial is right there, and we're gonna see some up close. So the top level awaiting cremation. He's actually being cremated. You know, they're on the things. They just haven't started on fire yet. These women, there's one there, there's one there, there's a bunch of them. They're actually all over here. You can see these women all over here. They're called wailers. They're crying, they're screaming. They're actually pulling their hair up and they're crying for the deceased. You can see their heads are turned. There's just one eye on each side. And they're supposed to be doing that. You could actually go out to a funeral if you're a woman. Other than that, you pretty much had to stay inside. The deceased is kind of given he's on one shoulder so you can see his body. His head is sideways, but you can see one eye. They're also giving votive offerings from the animals. Looks like a wife and a child, but there's also two here. We don't know if that's supposed to be the wife and the child or two other children. We're not really sure, but they're there with him for this funeral. It's very important. If you ever saw the movie Troy or read the Iliad, when Achilles kills Hector, Achilles takes the body. And Hector's father, who is King Prius, wants it back. And he goes in there and he begs him for his son's body. And he gets it. It's just very important. These rituals are just the most important thing to them. And in the other registers lower, you can see there's a processional of an army, and the men fighting, their shields become their bodies. Okay. And the horses are just like we saw in the Mesopotamian standard, where they kind of abstract them into one thing. They have chariots, of course. You can go back to the original. So you can see the horses and the chariots. Very interesting. And you can see the Greek key up here. Make it a little bit. You see the Greek key up. This is this register. Then you have the ceremony. Then you have the horses, and the horses and chariots, and the men in the shields. Kind of goes around. Here's another example of a funeral. It's a little bit different. This up here, the same as the beginning. This checker thing is the death shroud. The black figure style is dominant from the 6th century for the Common Era. The artist painted black images silhouetted against their natural red clay background. The details were inserted by etching the black figures. White or purple paint could then be added. So here are some of the sculptures that they made. And this is called the New York Curls, made 600 before the Common Era. It really is influenced by the Egyptians. It's changed a little bit. But I don't know if I have, yeah, here I have a comparison with the Egyptian. You can see the arms straight down, 1 foot slightly ahead. The little difference is they've kind of have it connected by this bottom thing. And the Egyptians always want it to be extremely solid, so they have a background there. A little more muscle here. The faces are a bit plainer. They don't have this looks like a individual man. Could be anyone. Okay. And this is a man with a calf and the calf bearer. The eyes would have been inlaid, but they're gone now. Okay. And then we go back. Sorry, I keep coughing. It's allergies. And here we have some of the same sculptures. A little different, but they're growing. They're changing a little bit by little bit. They're life-size marble. Some are inscribed. Some are used as grave markers or they're placed in sanctuaries. The males are called curls. Statues are always nude. The females are cories, and they're always clothed. This is called a peplos cord, even though she's not wearing a peplos. It was just named wrong. And this would have been painted. Something like that. The votive figure, not a funerary figure. She would have worn jewelry, crown, and held object, usually an apple. She was not really wearing a peplos. This is a peplos. A statue with a peplos, which is a dress. That's how she was painted. The period was 600 to 480. Athens begins to move to the forefront. Greek arts, both visual and literary, developed rapidly during this time. Potters and painters began to sign their work. First time we can start to attribute works to individual artists or art shops, artist workshops. The temple design expands. Pre-archaic periods, temples were outdoor altars within sanctuaries, where a temple sheltered the statue of a god. Temples grew in size and complexity. As some architecture and sculpture should be harmonious with like music and mathematics as well as the universe. The Greeks believed that everything had a pattern. That everything should be mathematical, that everything should be perfect. They just really believed that in everything they did. That's kind of blurry. We'll skip that. I'm going to skip this too because we don't care. You see some of them. This is called the Doric style of a column. We'll see more of these. Here's the Doric order. Here's the Ionic order. The Ionic is going to have these like ram's horns here that are called a volute. And they're going to have a base. The Doric doesn't. The Doric is masculine and warlike. The Ionic is considered a little feminine. Doric, Ionic. There's some of the other things that we don't really care about. They're showing the pedimental figures we'll see here. The topes are here. And the frieze, because we'll show you one of those. I don't want to go through all of these because we don't worry about them. But this is interesting. Because here's a dying warrior from 500 to 490. It's on the west pediment of the Temple of Ephia. Okay, so 400 to 490. Same temple. This is on the east pediment, and this is 480, so it's 10 years younger than this. And look at how different it is. They went from this, early archaic, the archaic smile, to this, which is much more realistic. To the classical style. This is just showing you it has been painted. Credo's boy is very interesting. It kind of got to the point where they made it very normal. So it was almost boring. They learned how to do it. They made it almost perfect. His eyes are inlaid, so it doesn't, work like that, but very normal. The major change in sculpture, artists had never focused on humans really humans really standing before like this. Earliest example of counterposto, which means one leg is in front of the other, the leg is bent, and the opposite hip is kind of bent in. Just how we stand normally to hold ourselves up. The representation of the human body in which the forms are organized in a varying or curving axis to provide an asymmetrical balance of the figure. The head is not facing forward. I'm going to pause here and start a new one because I can only go 15 minutes on this.